When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about part 3 of the battle beneath the wall, the battle of the wall, whatever you want to suggest. We're going to be kind of talking about the resolution to it, as the actual battle for the Wildling camp isn't all that exciting. It's very one-sided and happens within basically a page or two. But we are going to go through it in today's video. This will very much be a shorter video compared to the first part and the second part, but let's not waste any time. So to kind of catch up from where we left off in part 2, we've seen the Wildlings try to do a number of different tactics to trying to get through the wall. One we saw with the Battle of Castle Black, just trying to gain control of Castle Black and raise the gate at that point. That fails, mainly because of Jon. We then see Jon have to step up and become a leader and protect against the battle for the actual wall, as numerous attacks are made on the gate, notably the turtle, which just happened as we ended the last video. So getting into part 3, we kind of have the aftermath of this. So at this point, this is the last we'll see of Jon in control during the battle, as we see as Alliser Thorne and everybody's favorite Jaina Slynt arrive at Castle Black. They take Jon Snow for questioning what he was doing. And I do want to say one thing, even though we know Alliser Thorne and Jaina Slynt are very biased against Jon, hearing Jon's story, it is like a weird story to think about from an outsider's point of view. Like, just given the fact that, okay, Jon Snow goes north, he then goes with Qhorin Halfhand, everybody in Qhorin Halfhand's party is killed, they have a witness that Jon kills Qhorin Halfhand, then goes with the Wildlings, sleeps with Ygritte, breaks his vow, and then comes back to the Watch and has been defending the wall. It's a really weird story to think about if you don't know the context of everything. So there's some missing context for Alliser Thorne and Jaina Slynt, and also they're extremely biased towards Jon. Either way, they don't buy Jon's story, with Aemon Targaryen being the only person that steps up for Jon and is the only reason Jon is not executed on site, right? He gets put in prison, and then at this point, Jaina Slynt and Alliser Thorne cook up another plan, and this plan is very good. There are a lot of plans that we see that are just bad by characters. This is a very good plan. The plan is Jon Snow, being somebody that's undesirable for Alliser Thorne and Jaina Slynt, they give him an order. And if he disobeys the order, they can execute him for disobeying the Watch and being a traitor, all those things. The same idea of why Jon gives an order to Jaina Slynt, same idea here. Because if Jon refuses it, they can then execute him on those orders, him disobeying orders. But if he goes through with it, it's basically a death sentence. You're sending Jon Snow into the Wildling camp to try and assassinate Mance. And anybody with 2 eyes can see this is a terrible idea for Jon. Jon is going to die. So it's a death sentence. It's what it is, right? It's just a different way of going about it. One of them is Jon has no choice and is executed. And on the other hand, he goes to the Wildling camp. Maybe he can live, maybe he can do something that paints him in a better light. But either way, that's where we leave off. So Jon is now going north of the wall to treat with Mance Rayder on the face value, but to really assassinate him. So at this point, the Watch is still in a really sorry state. The Stair is still destroyed. They don't have the most amount of numbers because of Bo and Marsh taking the bulk majority of their main forces to other places. These were feint attacks by Mance Rayder. And even these reinforcements of Alliser Thorne and Jaina Slynt that they bring, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough men. So the Watch is still in a terrible spot at the moment, and Mance Rayder knows that, as he tells Jon in their parley. And really, Mance just lays it out. Mance is extremely honest with Jon because he realizes the situation. The Watch has no chance, given outside help doesn't help them, which is what's going to happen. But at this point, there is no chance for the wall. Right now, the wall is running out of supplies, they're running out of men, they're spread too thinly. Mance Rayder even lays out multiple plans that he could do. He could go around Eastwatch using boats and attack them from the rear. He could go all the way to Shadow Tower, and eventually they would take it. But Mance doesn't want to do all these things. And Mance also tells Jon he has the Horn of Winter, something that we were told by Ygritte was not actually the case. Mance Rayder's at least saying here that it is the Horn of Winter. I don't believe it was. I think this was very much a feint by Mance Rayder to try and pressure the Night's Watch to open their gates, more or less. And it's a really subtle but interesting move by Mance because it makes sense. Now, on the face value of it, could Mance also have just thought this was the Horn of Winter, even if it wasn't? That's also the case. We just don't necessarily know here. So Jon and Mance are treating, and we need to then shift our focus elsewhere because when this battle has been going down, and we've seen that Maester Aemon, who really is the person that saves the day, he saves Jon from being executed immediately. He's been sending letters to Cotter Pike at Eastwatch, and also has been sending these letters of help to all the other lords and things like that, something that reaches Stannis. It is what allows Stannis to save the day, with Cotter Pike's help and Jon as well holding out. So at this point, Stannis has arrived at Eastwatch. Him and Cotter Pike are basically leading a force of rangers and also Stannis' men, and they are leading them on the ranger trails to sneak up on Mance Rayder's forces. So that is kind of where we're at right here. And also going back to Mance and Jon, Jon even tells the state of the camp is very disorganized. I've been doing my Clash of Kings reread, and one of the things that's very apparent about, for instance, like Renly's camp and Stannis' camp, Robb's camp, all these, different camps, very organized. They are very organized camps so that they're not going to be taken that easily in the night and things of that nature. Here, it's not the same, right? This is very much an entire population of people moving. So you have animals, you have regular old people, and all of that stuff. Not all these people are warriors, and so you have a camp that's very disorganized, and that's going to really play into Stannis' hand because we're not exactly told how many men come from Eastwatch, but we're told that on estimate, Stannis had around 1,500 knights that were mounted soldiers, heavy horse, also mounted bowmen, and just men-at-arms. If you want to say that maybe Eastwatch had another, let's add another 100, maybe 200 men to that. Let's say a general estimate of Stannis had close to 2,000 men, but more likely around 1,700 forces were coming to take on Mance's forces, which anywhere from 30 to 40,000 by Jon Snow's estimation, hundreds of giants, 100 plus mammoths. And again, even though we've seen these battles take place, really the Wildlings have only taken around 400 losses. They have about 200 that they say to Jon, and then also there's another like 100, maybe 150 in terms of the climbing the wall part and then attacking Castle Black. They've lost around 400 people, maybe 300 people in that ballpark. The numbers are not great. Like the Wildlings still have way more numbers than Stannis and all of his forces. And that's really important to understand because when Stannis is going to attack, you have to remember Stannis is facing numbers of like 20 times his size. Now, are these men well armed? No, these are men that are not well equipped. They are not trained the best. They don't have the best discipline. All they have is overwhelming numbers. So Jon and Mance are treating, and all this is going down, and then you hear a horn, and this is from the Outriders telling them an attack. Varamir also spots something coming in from the east. So there's rangers coming in from the east, which right away Mance is kind of up in arms about, but he kind of realizes these seem to be men from Eastwatch. So this is not anything out of the ordinary. The Night's Watch trying to help Castle Black, but it's kind of a foolish attack if it's just Eastwatch. Again, this is probably less than 300 men at max. I think 300 men at max is probably how much were sent from Eastwatch. And so Mance Rayder responds. He has Tormund getting like 3 rows of spears, getting Tormund's line going. Mance then being in charge of the mounted soldiers. Really, they're trying to put up a defense. And so it starts with the Rangers from the east. But very quickly, the battle starts to turn. Because then more mountain cavalry, which these are Stannis' troops, right? These seem to be more well-equipped, start coming in from the north and the northeast. The Wildlings at this point are being attacked on multiple fronts by mounted men with much better equipment. And Stannis is not prepared to engage them. The discipline is not there. The Wildlings try and mount a defense, but very quickly, as Mance goes into the battle, his horse is almost instantly taken down. He himself falls. Tormund's lines are instantly broken from the rear, and the Giants are basically the only faction that is still fighting back. Many of the other Wildlings take off. They try to flee at this point, and that's seen in the prologue for A Dance with Dragons. the wildlings, after the initial like push of the battle, are instantly sent running. Again, this is a population of people. This is not like Robb Stark's army or Tywin Lannister's army. This is a group of people that are not experienced in this kind of warfare. It's one of the things that was hinted at really throughout the entire like series, and Clash of Kings especially, that the wildlings don't know how to fight against a well-timed mounted assault from like all sides. That is made very clear here. The only difference is that Jeor Mormont had like 300 men against thousands and thousands. Stannis, one of the greatest military commanders, has around 1,700 men to work with, including the Night's Watch men. So what we see is really just a collapse. It's all of these mounted coming from everywhere. There are archers shooting fire arrows into the wildling camp, creating, havoc and chaos and intimidating the wildlings. All of this is just collapsing on them. And Jon sees all of this through his own eyes, really, as the wildlings collapse quite quickly. They're attacked on all sides. Again, Mance goes down. It doesn't look good. And that's kind of where the battle ends. Stannis wins this battle with very few losses to Stannis' host. Meanwhile, the casualties on the other side by the very end of the battle is around, in total, from the battle of, with all three of these parts, the numbers we're told in the story is around anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400, calculating in the battle for Castle Black as well in there. And then also a good amount of giants thrown in there as well. And then also another 1,000 that are captured. So a pretty big blow for the wildlings as they are completely routed and destroyed. We then know what's going to happen in the wake of this. Stannis is going to be at the Night's Watch at Castle Black for a time until the Lord Commander is chosen. He then is going to treat with the Lord Commander, who is going to end up going to be Jon. And a lot of the ways that Jon becomes Lord Commander is directly because of this conflict. This war and this three-part series was really to show Jon coming into his leadership, coming into his role, why men choose to follow him. Now, we do know that the reason he truly gets elected is because of Samwell Tarly. I'm not going to get into that in this because Samwell and what he does and how he gets Jon elected is not part really of the battle for the Wall as it comes to a conclusion here. But really the main part of this to look at is you think about how the Night's Watch, and specifically Stannis, wins this battle. It's off heroic deeds by Jon and Danelle Noy taking control of Castle Black against overwhelming odds and still winning, using great tactics like, using the stare against the Thens and all of that stuff, and using all these great tactics like freezing the stone and using that against the turtle. All of these things were completely genius. Stannis, even against great odds, using great military tactics against the wildlings and all of that stuff. The reason that they live is because of thinking out of the box and great leadership, something that the wildlings didn't necessarily have. I mean, Mance is a good leader, but overall they were thinked, right? That's the way I would put it. So that is basically the end of this series. There wasn't a whole lot further I wanted to go with this. This one I didn't go as, I feel like, in depth as the other two, because this one, it's not really needed to go in as depth. It's not really a battle. Like, it's more of a slaughter. Stannis comes in, barely loses any men, and the wildlings are completely routed. It's not really a battle. Whereas, like, the battle for the Wall, there were many times that the Night's Watch could have lost, and they didn't. And that's what makes the first two parts so interesting. This part is really a resolution to all of that, kind of concluding all of that in there. And let me know what you guys think about the Battle for the Wall. I really enjoyed doing this series. We might do like a one-part Battle of the Whispering Wood next, as a lot of you guys wanted to see that when I put out a poll. So I'll probably do that next. I might take a break, might do maybe a show versus book thing, another character like I did with like Arya and Varys. I might do one of those put in here between the battles. But I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you have suggestions for what I should do next in show versus book comparisons, I'd love to hear your suggestions in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the series. But bye, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.